Welcome back to our channel, This Garden Bliss. We hope everyone is having a wonderful July, but first we'll look back at the blooms in June.
It was a slow start to our June season, with the peonies, the herbaceous peonies in particularly, blooming much later on in June, the third week in June actually. So we had a variety of different mixed temperatures. We had wind, we had cool days, many cool days. And as you know, peonies need the warmer temperature to open up. And today we're looking at some of those blooms that eventually happened later on in the season.
It was about time too, as beautiful as they are. It was a long process this year.
It took its time.
Mm-hmm.
But Sarah Bernhardt peony in the front garden did not disappoint.
Always a show.
It was a show. And so when we finally came around to the third week in June, the front garden borders was amazing. We were quite pleased with some of the work that we had done in the previous seasons. And the peonies look lovely. The poppies, they popped.
we didn't have a lot of those this year.
No, and I don't know why. It tends to die back into the garden bed. Later on in the summer months, we had 3 blooms last year. This year we only had 2. But the irises, which needed a little bit of cutting back there, the irises that were transplanted last year to other garden beds, they did very well. I wasn't really expecting them to bloom this year after their transplant.
I like how you have the alliums nestled in back there.
Yes.
In amongst the flowers. Back to the poppy. It's so pop out red. We put a lot of red in the garden this year.
I decided to go out of my comfort zone and we put in some reds, which we'll show in the next video because the summer video will have a lot of color. The gardens still look quite quiet at this point. So we're going to go back in June and show some of the wonderful colors and that we're doing very well. In June.
This is our north courtyard here, seen from the outside.
Yes, and this is the delphiniums that bloomed very well, and we'll show you a little bit later in the video. They were actually trimmed down to make a wonderful floral display for a memorial occasion.
Well, looking into the north courtyard, we see the fountain is up and running. The lighting itself inside that water spout is independent as well. Looking at the impatiens here, and then the general overview of the up-and-coming hydrangeas and hostas. The cedars way in the background covering the air conditioner. To the right, we see the peonies, and they're winding down as well there. I love this double osteospermum African daisy. That was a treat to ourselves, wasn't it, honey?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a little tiny welcome sign in there.
Yeah, we can't see it. It's smothered in blooms.
And it really needs full sunlight, doesn't it?
It does need full sunlight, but I really love the double osteospermum.
Yeah.
It's rare to find the double. And when it opens up, it looks blue in the center at first. And then it opens up into a white and lavender.
So it's like a double layer.
It's a double layer of bloom.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to give my best effort in wintering it over to see if I could get the same thing next year.
Well, I'm sure we'll have to have it in the kitchen where we get a lot of the afternoon daylight and the setting sun facing west.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it sure is gorgeous.
And so in this courtyard last year, we made a lot of changes. But it was the Eden Rose that stole the show in June. Coming back from the ice storm, it really put on a show this year.
Last summer, we started to use a fish emulsion fertilizer, which the results speak for themselves. Absolutely gorgeous.
A perennial garden just keeps giving back, and we're looking at the clematises that bloomed over all the arbors throughout spring. And this year, a lot of them were their third year in the garden. Um, and I was just amazed. We did a video just on all the spring clematises that were in bloom about 3 weeks ago. We'll put that link down below if you want to take a look at that. Clematises are a beautiful companion plant for your climbers as well, whether it's a silver lace vine or it's a climbing rose. I have found that the clematis, they have a wonderful display of blooms in the spring, and you can buy a variety of them that will give you blooms later on in the summer as well.
Companion plants. I've never heard of that expression before.
Yeah, companion planting, because sometimes your roses, when they're finished in June, they may bloom for you for a second time, but in between that time of transition into blooming again, it's great to have that clematis blooming in between.
And as with these daisies, you've got other plants in amongst there as well. The yarrow, and yeah, it looks good. I like that. I like that little light purpley color.
Because in between end of June and July, there's still that quiet moment in there where everything looks green and lush. The rudbeckia isn't blooming yet, and the hydrangeas aren't blooming yet. That's where your yarrow and your daisies come in, because you're waiting for the lilies to open and you're waiting for the astilbe to start blooming. So I find that the Alaska Shatsa daisy, it's a wonderful transition. So we have here what you're seeing, they're fully open now, but in between that, we have several videos of it, when it's closed and then it opens up to fully blooming by the end of June.
And there's some spirea back there by the bench I see. And everything seems to be also height compatible. You're planting in accordance to how tall they get.
Yeah, the Anthony Water spirea has been in the garden for a very long time. Perennials you can never lose. They just keep giving back.
Worth the investment.
Worth the investment.
So we're back at the Angel Fountain. That another video shows how I renovated it and rebuilt it, and concrete, etc. And it's a wonderful addition to any garden, any water feature. As you can see, there's a bit of algae there, but that's just the way it is. I get in there with a toothbrush from time to time and clean it out. And there's little Miss Cardinal at the bottom of the fountain. We get a lot of birds coming this year. When the serviceberry tree is all run out of its berries, the birds usually disappear. But they've been coming back and back for a full bath. They'll go in there and swim around. Absolutely incredible to watch. And no, I just can't get my camera out there fast enough, and they all run away. Now she just jumps in for a swim, comes out like a little red furry ball.
And so we have the goldfinch come in.
Mm-hmm.
We have the chickadees. We have the robins, who've been in the garden for years, but the cardinals seem to have become a little bit more friendly. They have watched the robins go for a dip and a bath, but they haven't stayed. They'll come for a drink and then they'll just fly away. But this year in particularly, when you were working on the fountain, they would go to the waterfall for a drink. Mm-hmm. And that's a little bit different.
They're expecting the water to be there first thing in the spring.
Yeah, so here comes the goldfinch.
Yeah.
And they drink and they just fly off their merry old way. And this year you set up the waterfall a little bit differently, and I really like that. The plants have come along since spring.
I saw some elephant ear, just go by there.
Yeah, the elephant ear is doing well. I've put in a little bit of pop of red in there. And the dahlias are out of the greenhouse now, and they're doing well. But the deck has not been dressed with anything, no cushions or anything, because right above it is our French silk lilac tree from my neighbor. And we love that tree. We love the scent. But after it blooms, it drops all the little buds, but, all the little flowers. So we're waiting for them to go. So we normally sit under the magnolia tree so we can actually take a look at the birds when they're bathing over there in the circle.
And the magnolia tree, it drops its own seed pods, so you get bombarded by seed pods, as long as they're not in my drink.
But that's a good sign, because the trees are healthy. So one of the things that we do in the spring, we take a look at our trees and how they're doing.
And treat them if we need to.
Yeah. So our spring display, we decided to go with soft, quiet colors this year for around the patio area. We planted some cabbage for the first time.
And the color is gorgeous.
I love this is a red cabbage. And I'm curious to know. I'm watching very carefully how this is going to work, because I've never planted cabbage in a container before.
It's gonna fall out like a bowling ball. And behind the cabbage, we got rosemary, basil, chives. And it's great to have right outside the patio's door when we're cooking in the kitchen. Just go and pluck what you need. In this container, we have an array of zinnias, cosmos, petunias, impatiens, and mums.
Perennial mums, actually.
Perennial mums, yes, actually. And coming into our garden studio, Claudia's made a wonderful, wonderful casket spray. Tell us about it.
Well, in a memorial dedicated to my great aunt Esmond, who has encouraged me to garden. Because every time I go to visit, on our weekly visit, she wanted flowers.
Where's my flowers?
Exactly. So we have blue angel hostas grown in the garden. And we decided to film this after I started, of course, putting the base together. So what we did was we put the floral foam on a tray, and everything here that you see is from the garden. We have the hostas, unanimous, ferns. However, the ferns were bought from the florist. And in the center, the foliage that you see is anemone, the anemone foliage. And we started doing the casket spray with delphiniums, the Eden rose, yes, and even baby's breath from the garden. And we purchased some lilies, because our lilies were not blooming as yet. But I was fortunate to find some astilbe that were blooming by the 30th of June. And we were able to put this wonderful arrangement together in memory of her.
I love how you placed everything strategically. I think, look at that delphinium.
Well, in the future, I will be doing a tutorial as I become more confident in doing this. I actually surprised myself because this was a request from the family if I could put something for her. And I said, sure, let me see what I have in the garden. And this is a perfect example of all the blooms that we had basically blooming in the garden, except for the calla lily and the Casablanca lily.
Welcome to Garden Bliss Florist with Claudia. Have a great day, folks, and thank you so much for watching.